Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Megan.
And I'm Natalie.
The current event we were given is the article How to Change Anyone's Mind from the Wall Street Journal, written by Jonah Berger.
The article starts off by talking about why people resist change. People like to feel like they're in control, and we tend to stick to things we know and have used for a long time. And people also tend to compare new information to their existing views to see if it's close enough to consider. And also, change involves a level of risk that many people are not willing to take.
The article breaks down 5 strategies to overcome the 5 recurring barriers to change. They are reduce reactance, ease endowment, shrink distance, alleviate uncertainty, and find corroborating evidence.
The first one, reduced reactance. Reactance occurs when a person feels disempowered, and when one feels disempowered, they say no to do something even when they might have been happy to go along with it to begin with. One solution to this is to highlight the gap between what someone would recommend to others and what they would do themselves. So the example the article talked about was water conservation, and when they encouraged students to take shorter showers, it didn't have any effect on saving water. However, after surveying the students on ways to conserve water, water use was reduced by more than 25%.
So once, if you thought after I made suggestions on how to do it, I would have actually carried through, and that's how they reduced water.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good.
Next is to ease endowment. People are overattached to the status quo, and a quote from the article is, "Part of the challenge is that the status quo usually isn't that bad, or else people would have made a change."
Excellent.
One solution is, instead of demanding a major change, start by asking for less or breaking the change down so it can be better understood. So an example the article gives is a financial advisor, and he tries to convince his client to switch to a low interest savings account instead of investing. However, the client refuses to do so until the advisor is able to break down the difference monthly, and by doing small increments, the client's able to understand the significance.
Next is shrink distance. Psychological experiments have found a zone of acceptance, and a quote that the article gives is an area close enough to people's existing beliefs that they'll consider new information. So one solution to this is to start by asking for less or breaking the change down into chunks. And Uber is one example of this because they overcame resistance of riding with strangers. They started by making a high-end black car service more acceptable. And before Uber, many people would say they would never get in a car with a stranger. However, I mean, I'm sure many of us have. So
Hmm. I never thought about that. It's just like you did it.
Yeah.
You put where you want to go in. A car comes. You hop in a car.
You just assume
You
that
go.
background check and
Yeah.
stuff, but next is to alleviate uncertainty. So you have to lower the barrier to trial. Don't just tell people something is better, allow them to experience it for themselves. So when Dropbox first came about, they knew that people would be worried that they would lose their work since they didn't fully understand cloud storage. So they had a free trial option before encouraging users to upgrade so that people could fully understand how it worked and they knew for themselves that they could trust the service. Next is Honda Motors Acura division. So they partnered with a high-end W hotel to offer guests free rides, and by doing so, people were able to ride in the car firsthand, and the rides removed uncertainty and resulted in tens of thousands of new Acura buyers.
And the last one is find corroborating evidence. Hearing from one person for big changes is often not enough because strength is in numbers. So an example of this is Facebook invitations. The number of people signing up to use a new website was almost directly proportional to the number of invites received.
So if you want to get me, you would send me multiple times to get it in, to get me to like you.
Basically.
Like if you saw there
Okay.
were multiple people going to something, you're more likely to do so.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. Okay.
Why do many change initiatives at companies fail? It's not about pushing harder or exerting more energy. Sorry. It's about reducing barriers to action. Once you understand that, you can change anything. Employers are too forceful with change and do not allow the strategies do not follow the strategies we discussed. But by doing so, it's more likely that their employers will want to make those changes.
Hmm.
And how does this relate to FSA? Companies that are able to implement changes effectively will be more successful in the long run because if employees aren't open to accepting the change, the company will not see results. And it is likely that innovative companies will successfully apply shifts in technology, management, etc., they will end up being more profitable. An example of this is training employees on new software updates. If an employee doesn't know how to correctly use the new software, chances are they won't want to use it.
Why do you think people resist change? I mean, you've talked about that a little bit, but why don't people just change?
I think there's a lot of people who are kind of set in their own ways and also don't like being told what to do.
Okay.
Yeah, people are scared to take risks too.
Do you think maybe they don't see what the benefit of the change would be?
Yeah, and I also, well, we talked about in, I think it was the second portion, that people are attached to the status quo, and it's also, if what's going on now isn't that bad, then you kind of think it's okay to just keep doing what you're doing.
Okay. It's worked for years, so why should I change?
Exactly.
That seems to imply that there is a process that we should engage in for change, right?
Yeah.
If we do these things, change will become more acceptable and it'll get the benefit of implementing it.
Mhm.
Now, what happens, like we're in this current situation and 2.5, 3 weeks ago, we're in class and doing this, and I've done online, so I'm fine with it. How do you think what happens when you're forced into change like this? If you've never taught online, never wanted to use any of this technology, and now you're forced to do it, how do you think, what goes on with the change there? Do you think people embrace it? Do you think they try? What do you think they do? How does change happen when you're forced into a change? You may not like it.
Yeah, I think it varies, but with my international finance class with Todd Fisher, he
Okay.
held sessions with Blackboard Collaborate because we talked about breaking down the change, and
Okay.
he like held individual Blackboard Collaborate sessions if there are students who didn't understand how to use it. So by doing
Okay.
he could teach them how to use it, and I feel like that made students more susceptible to the change because they understood how it worked and they knew that like he would be there to help them with it.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. But I also think there's professors who like aren't comfortable with online technology. So
Okay.
I feel like there's some professors that have been open to students helping them, kind of asking advice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's good too. I think it's kind of just like knowing yourself, and if you're comfortable with it, then that's good. But if you're not, then you should ask for help.
How do you think with this brave new world we're in, do you think change is going to accelerate? More things are going to change faster because of what we're going through?
I think change will happen in the workforce, especially because a lot of people are working from home right now. So it's showing companies that they have the ability to make those changes. And I
Mm-hmm.
think in the future that a lot of companies will be okay with people working from home because of this change that we've had to adapt so quickly.
What do you think are a couple of benefits of people working from home from either a company perspective or an employee perspective?
I think some things within companies are going to be more efficient because I saw something online and it was like um, doing work from home is making me realize that like that meeting could have been an email, like that sort of thing. Like
Okay.
some things that are in person don't really need to be in person, or I think can be, I don't know, just more efficient in general.
I
Okay.
think from an employee standpoint too, it like if you have like children and stuff like that, you don't have to like hire people to get them off the bus. Like as long as somebody's home in the house, then like that's enough to make sure that they're okay.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And then I think the biggest save that company's going to have is on facilities cost. So if you don't need as much space,
Yeah.
um, you know, that's going to save a lot of money.
That's true. I didn't think about
Uh,
that.
yeah. Now, from an employee perspective, what do you think you would like about working at home versus an office?
Well, for me, I don't think, I feel like it's different if you have a family and stuff, but for me, like, I don't like doing work from home. I think I'm more productive if I like get out of my house. So for me, I think
Okay.
it's difficult, but
I think I knew that if I was going to work from home, I would set up a space where I could focus. So I think if
Okay.
in the future knew that working from home was an option, they would set up like a home office or they would create the space in order to have that
Okay.
work for them.
See, now I look at it, well, I haven't had to drive to Geneseo, so that saved me an hour and a half of time.
right.
Yeah.
I can schedule things at times that, like if you wanted to meet at 4 o'clock in Geneseo on Thursday, I'd probably tell you, oh no, let's do it at a different time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then again, to take breaks, I went out for a walk after we were just before the 231. I had a couple of other events. I spend all the time on Zoom.
Yeah. And even us just being like outside right now, like.
Yeah, I was outside. We went outside for a walk and talked to people, and
Yeah.
you know, I can walk downstairs and get coffee and that. So some things I like, but you do miss the people side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But good. What did you learn from doing this?
I kind of feel like it made me realize that I'm kind of resistant to change. Like if I don't see the benefit of something, I kind of want to do what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to change society as a whole. Like, our society hasn't really been through anything like this in a while. And I think, like, showing people that, like, a big change is possible as long as everybody is in it together, like, it's okay.
Okay. So this time we don't necessarily have a choice. We're being forced to change because
Yeah.
we don't have any alternatives. Okay. Any closing thoughts or comments?
I mean, I think, like, being forced to change and, like, wanting to change are two very different things. But because we're being forced to change right now, I think it'll make people more open to change in the future.
Yes, very good point. That's a good place to leave.